How's it going, everybody? I'm going to talk about the new Form 1040 for 2018. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the difference between the new Form 1040 and the 2017 and prior years 1040. The first thing we can see is how much longer the 1040 is for 2017 and previous years compared to the 2018 1040. The next thing we're going to look at is the schedules that come with the new 1040, Schedule 1 through 6. Um, they need to be filled out depending on the taxpayer situation. Uh, the first thing we see on the 1040 form is the filing status. And this is important because it helps us determine the standard deduction for different taxpayers, among other things. The next thing we see is the name of the taxpayer, their additional standard deduction if they were 65 and over, and or blind. If they're married filing joint, this is the spouse's name and their additional standard deduction if they're 65 and over or blind, and then other personal information. We have dependents here, and then we have to check if the child meets the qualifying child and dependent for the child tax credit. Um, then we have the sign here, which is your signature, which compared to previous years was usually on the second page at the bottom, and it's now at the first page. Moving on to the second page of the new 1040 form, we have line item 1, which is wages and salaries and tips, and this is basically any increase in wealth that a taxpayer realizes over the taxable year. Then we have qualified dividends, uh, line item 3A, which is any which are dividends that are taxed at a preferential rate, 0, 15, or 20%. Then we have ordinary dividends, which are taxed at the taxpayer's ordinary income tax rate. And IRA distribution, Social Security benefits. Line item 6, total income. Now that's the sum of lines 1 through 5. However, we have to go through Schedule 1 to figure out all the other uh, additions to income, such as capital gain, loss, alimonies, taxable refunds, rental real estate, all that good stuff. Going back to the form, now that the sum of all of those would go on line 6. And then we go to line 7, AGI, adjusted gross income. And from this, we just subtract the deductions from AGI, or deductions for AGI. Uh, and that'll be found on Schedule 1 as well. Line 36, which is the sum of line 23 to 35. And we see like educator expenses, IRA deductions, qualified plans, and all that stuff. Then we move on to line item 8, which is your standard deduction or itemized deduction, depending on which one you choose. This is where your filing status comes in to play, especially if you choose, obviously, if you choose standard deduction. Each individual taxpayer has a different standard deduction depending on their filing status. Um, and then we're going to go to line item 10, which is your taxable income. And then we have line item 11B. And for here, I want to look at Schedule 2, which has your alternative minimum tax. And the alternative minimum tax is used to ensure that all taxpayers with more than modest economic incomes pay some minimum amount of the tax. And this applies to individuals, trusts, and estates. Um, the higher of your regular taxable liability or the calculated minimum tax is going to be your tax. And going back to 1040, next thing we're going to look at is line item 12, which is the child tax credit. And this is a credit that a uh, taxpayer gets to use if he has a qualifying child um, under the age of 17. And it allows a credit of $2,000 per child. And there's a phase out that begins at $400,000 for married filing joint, and for all other taxpayers, it's $200,000. This $2,000 or each credit is phased out by $50 for each 1,000 of AGI over phase out floor. That's the child tax credit. Line 14, that's all other taxes. So I'm gonna go to Schedule 4 and look at other taxes, and that's like self-employment tax and all that good stuff, all the other taxes. Then 15 is your total tax. The next thing I want to look at is the refund area here, which is let's say that you overpaid on your taxes and you want a refund. Some interest, I believe it's a 4% interest on the first quarter of the year is allowed if you did not receive your refund within 40 days of the filing date. However, if you receive your refund within the 45 days, no interest will be received. The only thing that will be received is the amount you overpaid. And then finally, on line 22, you get your the amount you owe in taxes, and that kind of sums it up. And thanks for watching this video.